Today I'm looking at something I've called regrets. Now, in the past series that I've done, I think parts 1, 2, and 3, I was looking at the different source of regrets. Today I'm going to be looking at another source of regret that we might have, and it's regret stemming from being in a bad relationship. Now, I'm going to refer to a man in the Bible in the book of Judges chapter 16, a man called Samson. And he got into a relationship with this woman called Delilah. It was a terrible relationship. In fact, it cost him his calling, it cost him his eyes, he was physically blinded, it cost him everything, he lost everything that he had. And I'm sure Samson must have been in a place where he was like, my goodness, how could I have allowed this to happen? How could I have gotten involved in this kind of relationship that has ruined my life? And that was how I believe Samson must have felt. But something interesting happened. Well, before I say something interesting happened, maybe you've been in a relationship and that relationship has ruined your life in quote. Maybe it has really hurt you. Maybe the relationship has really caused your life to take a turn that you were not expecting at all. And you're like, man, I shouldn't have done that. How could I have been so on and so forth. Same thing that Samson probably felt the same, like, man, I'm finished. If I just hadn't been in this relationship, my life wouldn't have turned out the way it is. So how do you deal with that kind of situation where your regret is stemming from a relationship, a bad one, for whatever reason? There's a portion of scripture that I'll refer to again, Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 18, and I'll paraphrase. God begins to say in that portion of scripture that the first thing you need to do when it comes to things like this, particularly regrets, is not to dwell on the past. Don't dwell on the past. Don't dwell on the past relationship. Note here I'm saying dwell, not think. Obviously, you can't erase the memory of it. Maybe sometimes you might, if a thought might come about the relationship, but he's saying don't allow yourself to dwell on it. So that's the first thing. But God doesn't stop there with regards to dealing with regret. He goes a step further, and I'll paraphrase from another portion of scripture, Romans chapter 8 verse 28. And in that portion of scripture, God says something. He says, he works everything out for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. So what that means is this. Obviously, God is not the one that made you choose that relationship. You probably chose it yourself. But he's saying, irrespective of that, he can still do something good with your life. He can still give you another relationship, or he can still help you to accomplish the things that you would have accomplished anyway as the end goal, so to speak. So what am I saying today? I'm saying if you have regrets stemming from a bad relationship, the Bible says, look, don't dwell on it. It's the past. Let it go. And he now goes to assure us, God goes to assure us that, look, I can still make good with your life. I can still give you a fulfilled life. Why? Because Romans chapter 8 verse 28 that we saw earlier, that I paraphrased from earlier, says God can still work out things for good in your life. So let's let regrets go and believe that God can still make things good for us in our lives.